Everyone, thank you for joining and welcome to today's webinar, Beyond SEO, aligning technical SEO, PPC, and content. If you want to click to the next slide for me, Kevin. This is just a quick agenda. I'll do some introductions and housekeeping before we kind of get into the main point that Kevin will go through, and there are some of his touch points for what he's going to discuss, and then we'll finish it up with some questions from the audience. So if you, there's a Q&A box at the bottom of the Zoom, so if you want to send some questions in there, we'll get through the ones that we have time for at the end. Again, like I mentioned, there's a Q&A box for the questions at the bottom of the Zoom screen, so please send them in, and if we have time permitting, we'll get through as many as we can. There will also be an option for feedback at the end of this. It takes less than a minute to complete. I think it's around like 3 questions, and this is also a way to kind of let us know what you want to see in future webinars. So if you could take that minute and complete it, that'd be awesome for us. And then, as always, if you joined these before, these will be shared with everyone who signed up or joined via email within a few days after today. Myself and Kevin are the presenters today. So just a quick introduction for me. I'm Eric Grabiak. Like I mentioned at the top of the call, I'm just outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm a senior customer success manager here at Lumar, and I've been with the company for around 4 years. While I'm not a technical SEO, obviously working with a bunch of accounts and our professional services team, I've gained some of that knowledge, as well as my brother being an SEO. So I kind of had, a little bit of background in it prior to joining Lumar. Kevin, if you want to give a quick introduction as well.
Yeah, so I'm Kevin. I'm the founding director and lead SEO consultant for Growthack.io, and we specialize in helping brands, both big and small, establish a good search strategy and grow their revenue. We've been doing this for about 5 years, and now we've got a team of 3 people who kind of handle their individual specialisms. And prior to that, I was the SEO lead for Experian B2B, where I spent a couple of years in-house. And then before that, I was agency side as well.
Awesome. Thank you. And with this, you have the option to enable closed captions. So there should be a CC icon at the bottom of your screen. If you do not see that, there's a more icon where you can choose to show subtitle. Within the same window, you can also choose View Live Transcript script to enable that. And then with the webinar recording that will be sent out, you will have the option for subtitles as well. Which leads us to our first poll question. So how aligned are your SEO, PPC, and content teams today? So if everyone wants to answer, we'll get the results here in a little bit. Always a challenge. Yeah, I think that's oh, here we go. Some collaboration is the majority of it. Fully integrated, which is awesome. And then mostly siloed with occasional overlap. Yeah, I know you're going to touch on those, obviously, today, Kevin. And I think that kind of fits in line with what you were going to chat about. So, awesome. Well, cool. And then before we get started with the backstory, I guess, if you want to give some background kind of to what brought you to this point in Beyond SEO before you kind of dive in.
Yeah, so I'll take it way back to before I started marketing. So originally, I wasn't actually in marketing at all. I wasn't dreaming of being an SEO. I spent a lot of my time in customer service. I had a part-time job working at Specsavers, and that role was essentially doing outbound calls to customers who just canceled their direct debit and trying to understand the reasons why they did that, and also to try and get them re-engaged and be a customer again. So my whole approach to marketing or SEO is always about customers. And I always feel like the biggest brands like Specsavers win essentially through understanding their customers and ensuring that they're aligned. And the reason why we think beyond SEO with Growthack is throughout my career, I've seen the struggles in terms of individual marketing teams being separated, especially when I was agency side. You have the SEO team doing their thing. You have the PPC team in another corner of the office, with their headphones on, just doing their thing, and nobody's really talking to each other. So I didn't want to have that kind of setup when I set up Growthack, and all of our brands that we work with, we have this obviously deep technical SEO approach, but we constantly work with PPC consultants, web teams, content teams, etc. And yeah, just want to share kind of my understanding of beyond SEO, and I think how we can be better aligned as a complete unit.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Cool. So yeah, so going back to that, so winning brands are customer first, right? And what that means is that I think as marketing professionals in general, our role is really to be aligned to the customers as closely as possible. And that means trying to understand the demand, what kind of products are they interested in? And if the brand that we're working with is not serving those customers well, understanding, those gaps and fulfilling those. And it comes down to obviously linking that with identifying opportunities, which I'm going to go through in a lot more detail. So the problem that we're currently facing is that, marketing silos is a term that's existed for quite a long time. But what does that actually mean? It means that many organizations still treat SEO, PPC, content, and product as really separate functions. And you certainly see that, especially at an enterprise level. When I was, in-house at Experian, I know, it's a B2B function, and some of you might be working in direct-to-consumer brands, but you really see that enterprise level organizations where you have product kind of naming all these different products and not really understanding how organic search works and if there's cannibalization or anything happening in terms of the market and understanding how people are actually viewing their products in the first place. And they have their own KPIs that could be completely different to perhaps marketing's KPIs. So yeah, you really see that disparity. And what I'm trying to get across is that each team, even though they work on their own targets, there's the overall business objective. And this is kind of what we need to be focused on. And the issue that I've also found is SEO is often seen as a distribution channel, and we can probably blame Universal Analytics for that. And where they split up all the channels, and back in the day, you used to be able to attribute your revenue quite easily, but now that's completely impossible. Now there's GA4 and first part, tracking customers is a lot harder in terms of ad blockers, etc. So SEO is not a distribution channel, and it never was. And the way that I've always seen SEO is that, our role, especially at a technical level, is to be deeply involved with the business at all marketing levels, from the C-suite to individual teams, because we manage the website as a whole. And everybody within marketing and within the business would interact with the website at some point, even the sales team, potentially. So SEO is really a structural layer for humans to understand a brand, and for platforms, whether that's Google, ChatGPT, or whatever new platform comes in the future, to interpret what that brand does, and now for AI to recommend that brand to potential customers.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that makes total sense, and it goes in line with the poll of how everything's being siloed, right? I know since I joined Lumar 4 years ago, meeting with numerous accounts that I work with, where it's typically just the SEOs. So marketing teams are sometimes involved, don't get me wrong, but like you said, it's often siloed, team to team. So integrating them obviously is, a winning approach.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on the solution as I see it. So essentially, we need to stop starting from the strategy. And I think a lot of brands or a lot of businesses, they approach specialist marketing people, especially whether it's SEO, PPC, or what have you, in terms of, oh, our SEO is down, or our PPC isn't delivering. We need a strategy around this. And they kind of start at that level. But really, performance is rarely solved at that, strategic level. So we need to dive a bit deeper in terms of solving a search strategy across marketing, and what that means in practical terms. is that we should unify in terms of the collective KPIs. As I've mentioned before, the overall business objectives, unify strategy in terms of how our channels operating, are we talking to each other, are we enhancing the same landing pages at a basic level, are we sharing data across teams? I've been involved in discussions with PPC consultants, and they might be focusing on a certain group of pages that are really dedicated landing pages for PPC that are so disjointed from the rest of the website journey. HubSpot landing pages versus the actual website. That's quite a common recurring theme. So really the solution really is to join up and really have a joined up approach, because if you look at it in the customer's eyes, they don't care whether it's a PPC landing page or they find you organically. They just want to find what they're looking for, and how they interact with that brand at whatever level. That's going to have a certain impact, whether positive or negative, in terms of that experience. So what I've come up with is a framework. Bear with me on this one. Hopefully it all makes sense. So I've called it the DCBAS framework, and it's a play on the classic ABCD framework with the S tier. The S tier being the God tier in terms of what you want to achieve, right? But I've kind of reversed that, where you really need to start at the D level. And what I mean is distribution in terms of search. So distribution could be site architecture. It could be how users are actually discovering your content, not just at the website level, but in terms of all the other channels or layers that are available. So that could be social media, that could be video, that could be any kind of distribution, maybe even offline as well. So that comes into it. How much presence do you actually have in the market? And then C is the content level. So pages, how they're structured. Are you answering the types of problems that clients or potential customers could have? Are you describing how your brand helps in specific use cases? And then B's for brand, which is self-explanatory. Are you trusted in the market? And then A's authority, which is of course validation via links, media coverage, and citations. So the whole point I'm trying to make here is that winners actually build from D up, and D is of course distribution. Do you have the right foundations in place? A lot of the times when luckily I've not been on a complete failure of an SEO project, but we are very selective in terms of who we work with. And I can quickly spot if an SEO project is going to be a success or not by understanding the distribution aspect. And we try and avoid brands where they may not have certain things in place. So as an example, presence in the market, that's certainly something that needs to be ticked off in terms of criteria. And then another thing is perhaps active social media profiles. If it's a D2C play or it's e-commerce, that is really important. Instagram, etc. Customers will be looking at your content. So do you have the supporting channels in place at a basic level? And it's about where and how you show up. This is obviously more important with AI, but this has always been a prevalent issue, but I guess it's more prevalent now. And this comes to the S tier, which is the search strategy, which a lot of brands focus on. What's our AI search strategy? What's our GEO, strategy? When really you kind of need to go to the previous layers. And I've tried to articulate this in the iceberg kind of analogy, where you've got the search strategy at the top, and that's the most visible and most talked about thing. What's our SEO strategy? What's our PPC strategy? And those are kind of the visible efforts. What's our content strategy? However, a lot of the times when strategies fail, it's not the search strategy itself. You could have a perfect technical structure for a website, but if you don't have your distribution lined up, if you don't have the right kind of content answering certain pains, problems, and questions, if your brand isn't even trusted in the market, and of course, if you don't have the right level of authority, then the search strategy is just going to fail. So we kind of need to take it back a step and peel back the layers a little bit before we get to the search strategy. So essentially, just before I end on this point, the whole point of this is to say that as specialists in terms of technical SEO, we kind of need to go back a few steps and align what we're doing in terms of the overall business and how it's perceived through all these different layers. And that's essentially what I'm trying to convey with the rest of the presentation.
Yeah, and before we dive into this poll question here, yeah, one thing I've learned since working at Lumar is going back to the D phase distribution is how important site, structure site architecture is. I know it's one thing that we've, you know, worked with different accounts, leveraging our professional service team and the tool to kind of help us. So yeah, that's one thing that I definitely learned pretty quickly, how important of a step that would be. But cool. So going into the poll question before you can continue, Kevin, which cross-channel opportunity are you most interested in improving? I know you talked about a few of them, Kevin. So interested to see what everyone has to say. So we'll give this a few seconds before the results pop up. Yeah, and while we're waiting too, just a quick reminder, if you did have any questions you want Kevin to potentially answer at the end, please throw those in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, hopefully nothing too tricky.
Cool. It looks like scaling performance across all channels is the winner. Is that what you expected, Kevin? Is that a little bit of a surprise, or do you think that kind of
Yeah,
aligns with what you had in mind?
I think that aligns because certainly the discussions that we're having is more so about overall business growth, and yeah, that makes sense that you want to align your channels for sure. So that I think that makes sense. That's quite good. It's good
Cool.
to have that. Okay, cool. So yeah, it's coming to I guess the meat of the presentation here. Let's think beyond SEO. Of course, I want to give you some kind of practical workflows that you can take away and hopefully help you with your day to day and share some examples of things that we've seen that have worked as well. So it comes down to technical SEOs and our role. And I think our role is understated. And really, I want to empower technical SEOs who feel like they may have been put in a box for most of their career. Luckily, with GEO and AI search, we are now being brought into more rooms. It's not just the website that we have oversight on, it's also brand discussions and how social media and the content off-site and the overall strategy is impacting visibility for brands as a whole. So really, we can uncover misalignment across the entire marketing stack. And I'm going to go through a few examples. So the first one is opportunity. And we can certainly align search data and reveal demand to improve SEO as well as PPC channel performance. Yes, I don't want to talk about channels specifically, but if you really look at it at that level, we can certainly have a strategy where at a simple level, you're looking at Search Console data. Every time I work on a new brand, I want to understand where is that traffic being concentrated on. And a lot of the times, if I notice a weak SEO strategy, all that content is going to be going to the homepage. Then you might have a few other pages, but no significant landing pages attracting customers, attracting traffic, etc. So the first thing we want to do is ensure that we can fill those gaps. And in an ideal scenario, you want to see the homepage maybe number 5 or number 6 or number 7 or 8 on the list. You don't want to see it far up at the top. You want to see other pages working really hard for the business. And essentially, this brings us to the opportunity where we can expand categories and identify different patterns, improve the page structures if we don't have the right intent on those pages. And then we can then improve campaigns across PPC, SEO, and content as a whole, and attract new customers. And what this could look like at a practical level, we worked with this brand called Pass Me Fast. They deliver intensive driving lessons across the UK. And we noticed that they had this prices page, right? It just looked a bit random because they deliver courses and they didn't have a courses folder for all their courses that they do. So they don't really have the topical relevance. So we had a few discussions with them and they mentioned something that was quite significant. They said that, oh yeah, our prices page, that's our highest performing page for PPC. I was like, oh, okay, that sounds interesting. Let me have a look at Search Console data. High impressions, not many clicks, really low click-through rate. So we said, okay, right, this page is obviously not fit for purpose. Let's do this test. And we ran it through SEOtesting.com, which I highly recommend. Really, really cool platform. And we changed the content on the page, made it more about the courses as a whole, including the prices, of course, on the page somewhere. And we were able to get more clicks on that page than we did before in that short test. So we said, okay, we're onto a winner here. And what happened as well is we were able to improve the website's ability to rank for one of their most commercial terms. Over time, you can see that they really struggled to get to the top off of page one. But because we've improved the intent behind the page, we were able to serve the demand a lot better. We were able to improve the number of leads that we're generating from that page. And this more so aligned than with the PPC leads as well as the organic leads. Because one of the most common problems that we uncover when we work with brands is, oh yeah, we're too reliant on PPC. Well, this could be one of the reasons why you're too reliant on PPC if there's that misalignment. Are your landing pages on the PPC level doing too much work when you could, better align your organic strategy so that you can kind of match what PPC is able to achieve. So that's just one example there. Also with the same brand, when you look at content as a whole and auditing it, what we try to uncover is, okay, what are the top performing pieces of content and what topics do we want to avoid? So if this particular brand delivers courses, people want to learn how to drive. They also had content about, issues with your car, how to fix them, trying to get car insurance, things that had nothing to do with their product offering. And those pieces of content performed really poorly in search. They didn't really get a lot of clicks. They didn't get strong click-through rate because guess what? The brand isn't very relevant for that audience. So it's just trying to engage the content team at a level to ensure that what we're doing actually makes sense for the brand. And also in terms of content, I think it's so important now, especially with AI, to understand where the demand is, not just for search, but I think users in terms of where are users spending most of their time. So in terms of kind of top of the funnel journey, right? YouTube is amazing, right? To discover new brands and new services. So I know when I used to drive, or when I was learning how to drive, rather, I still drive now. When I was learning how to drive many years ago, I spent a lot of time on YouTube, looking at all the different maneuvers, etc. So if your brand is in a space where YouTube is such a key point of interaction, you need to have those assets ready. SaaS, if you work in that space, maybe not so much direct to consumer, unless you work in beauty or what have you. I'm not sure what kind of brands you work with, but you need to understand, where users spending a lot of their time and do you have those assets at a really basic level. And what we found is for this brand, they didn't. So we tried to devise a strategy and look at all the different examples in terms of how they could fulfill that in terms of assets.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, that's really insightful. And I think one thing that really stood out to me too is, around the homepage being your top rank page. I feel like that's the case for a lot of sites, right? So pushing that down to like 4 or 5, yeah, it just makes sense that it would, improve everything else. So yeah, I really like that point.
Cool. Yeah, it's a common thing, and yeah, we've seen it many times, which brings us nicely to site architecture, and this is essentially the foundation for everything, right? Everything kind of goes through the site when you're running campaigns in general. So how you structure the site is going to be really pivotal in terms of your performance and your overall results. So I love looking at site architecture. I think it's one of the biggest levers that we have as technical SEOs, and it's where we can get really involved in a business. And it's an opportunity for us to expand categories again, look at page structures, improve campaigns as a whole, and drive new customers, and actually increase the value of deals coming through the website. So at a really basic level, right, new collections on for e-commerce. This is a classic playbook, and we worked with the brand where we did a similar thing. We looked at the topical coverage for one of their categories. and they only had the one landing page. So they sell mobility equipment, and rollators is one of their top products in terms of the one that they stock. They have a lot of stock that they need to shift. So they only have the one landing page, and they really struggle to appear for more top level search queries. So talking about, I want to buy rollators or whatever. So we said to them, okay, listen, you need to deepen your structure. So we created all these subcategory pages that linked to the main category page. And now what you have is they're appearing for more terms, more broad queries, as well as we were able to improve the UX. So if somebody's searching for a lightweight rollator, they've got a page for that. All terrain, indoor, heavy duty, etc. And this can also better inform campaigns and PPC targeting as well. And what we did as well is we tested the new structure, and this was prior to a migration, prior to a rebrand. So we wanted to test if this structure actually worked. So we restructured that particular category as well as other categories and made sure that they were better aligned. And what we saw over the testing period is a huge significant increase in daily clicks and impressions. And what eventually happened after a migration is we were able to achieve higher average order values and improve the conversion rate. So improving the user journey as a whole can certainly deliver strong commercial results.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before too, site architecture is one thing that I found out pretty quickly how important it is. And you using your example and seeing those giant increases in numbers and sales, which obviously is a great thing, is just reiterating that point. So I love seeing the real world examples just to kind of drive home, you know, how something like that can, affect my site so much.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's one of those underrated playbooks. It's so easy to implement, but I think a lot of people just don't understand the value of having a deeper category structure. It's a classic playbook for e-commerce websites, which leads on to product insights. So I think as technical SEOs, we can certainly align our strategy to product problems or sales conversations. And it's a huge missed opportunity, I think, if you're stuck in that technical mindset and you don't want to speak to wider departments. I think there's huge power in having these kind of conversations and asking the right questions. So product insights can certainly shape content. And I believe that the more effective content strategies are driven by feedback, not keyword volume. So a lot of the time when I'm trying to look at a brand for the first time, I want to understand, okay, at a business level, what are your top performing products? Okay, what products do you have a lot of stock of that you're not shifting? How can I help? How can I help solve a problem for you from a sales point of view? And then I need to look at the website data and see if that's marrying up with what you're saying. I remember working on this brand. I didn't have it prepared, but they sold wine racks. So if you want to have a wine rack at your home, you can kind of install it in certain areas within the house. And they said, oh yeah, yeah, one of our most popular installations is to have understairs wine racks. So your stairs usually have a lot of storage. And I was like, okay, oh, that's interesting. And then I look at the website, there's no page about that at all. So just at a really basic level, just that trying to ask the right questions. If I hadn't asked that question, I wouldn't have known that's their best-selling installation. So again, it comes back to expanding your categories, your page structure, and improving your overall campaigns. And also from a B2B aspect, you can certainly improve the effectiveness of the leads you're generating from the website. We worked with this B2B SaaS brand, and one of the issues that they had was sales really didn't use the website as a tool, as a conversion tool. And no wonder, because the MQL, so the marketing qualified leads being generated from the website, were actually so low in value that they didn't convert at a high rate or weren't accepted at a high rate. So when we started working with them, their sales acceptance rate was below 15%, which I think is pretty low. So we want to understand, okay, why are the leads not coming through? Why are they not being accepted by sales? And some of the feedback was due to product fit. Okay, so we need content around our product and why it's a good fit for certain customers and why it's not a good fit for certain customers. A lot of the acceptance rate issues were due to the business size. Some of the businesses were just too small. Okay, so maybe we're going after the wrong terms. Maybe we're going for too broad of in terms of queries. Maybe we should go for more enterprise terms. So at a really basic level, you can understand how to better structure the content. And also, just to point is through having these conversations with the marketing team that were close to sales on a weekly basis, we were able to track the MQLs at an individual level and then collect that data. Then over time, we could see, are we improving the acceptance rate, or is something still holding us back? And we could add notes. In this example, they're just qualified out during the sales process because we didn't have the particular product that customer was looking for. So we can just understand, is it a product problem? Is it a website problem? Is it a customer service problem? Just trying to understand exactly why things aren't working as they should. And to bring it back to e-commerce, we need to understand the trend of product sales. So, this is a e-commerce brand that we work with, and over time, we can see that certain products sell much better. And we always ask the question, okay, what products are making you the most profit? And we've realized that for us to achieve our overall business objectives, all we need to do is acquire a few of these really high-end products. So our whole strategy now is basically how can we get more of these high-end products that we're able to get on a regular basis. So at a really simple level, is trying to just align the website with whatever the business feedback is.
Yeah, no, and I think it's a really good point. You know, sales drive a business, right? So aligning that with product insight, like your example of the under staircase wine rack, if that's your biggest seller, you may need to make sure that that's optimized on your page and getting on your site, and you know constantly optimizing and looking for that. So yeah, no, makes complete sense.
Yeah, definitely. They were a very happy customer after the page was launched, and yeah, they were able to sell more on the stairs wine racks. So yeah, it's just a simple case of just having the right page for whatever product is popular. So which finally brings us to migrations, and I love migrations. A lot of SEOs are scared of migrations, but I think if you look at them from a really positive, opportunistic point of view, there's a lot of value that you can get from a migration when done well, of course. And essentially, it's an opportunity to align your SEO strategy to all the different customer lenses and sales conversations that you might have had. And what I mean by lenses is if you look at any website or any brand, there's certain ways people look at your products. There may be common themes or common lenses. An example of a lens is perhaps do people look at your products in a perspective of industry? So industry could be a lens. Do they look at it at certain types of categories? Do they look at it in all these different various ways, right? And our role really is to understand those lenses and ensure that we have the different pathways for people to navigate through the website and then become a customer. So in terms of migration planning, of course, having a migration checklist would really help. And when we want to align with PPC and content, is just to ensure that they're aware of what's happening. I think I've been on projects certainly where there's been a migration and we've got our process, because we're technical SEOs, we want to make sure every stone is turned and every I is dotted and every T is crossed. And we really have a meticulous process in terms of migrations. But the PPC team, they may not have the same kind of process. They may not even be aware of URLs changing. So we need to have that conversation, get them involved within our migration planning. And also, are we, in terms of technical SEOs, are we having those discussions at various areas of the business? Are we involved at the pre-launch stage, staging, and post-launch, etc. as well? And then in terms of design discussions, certainly we need to understand what types of pages do we need to enhance the user experience, and also what potential conflicts can occur. So we worked with this particular brand during their rebrand and move over to Shopify. And sometimes they would suggest certain page types which could potentially conflict with other page types. So we didn't want to have that um, confusion and cannibalization as such. So because we were involved in that design discussion process, even though we're not designers, we just understood the impact that certain designs could have on the overall website structure. And then also comes down to category coverage. Going back to that previous example, with the rollators. So over time, you can kind of see that we've improved the visibility for this. This is SEO monitor data, and we were tracking the performance, the search performance over time. As we improve the product depth, you can kind of see that visibility improving. So I guess the question really and the answer that we should try and get to is, can we create new categories? And this isn't new categories in terms of new products, it's the existing products, but can we have different lenses? Can we have different ways to describe these products? Are there different opportunities, use cases that we can put these products into that may not exist on the current website? And this is an example of lenses in action. So we worked with this particular brand, and what they do is they manufacture sports pitches. So if you think Barcelona, we were talking about Manchester United earlier, they've worked with, I think, over half of the Premier League teams' pitches. Somebody basically constructs those pitches, does the fencing, makes sure there's systems in place to make sure the pitches are playable, etc., maintenance. So they do all of that. And what we discovered is their old website had all these pages scattered around. And we wanted to group these pages in terms of all the different lenses that the customer would see their product. At a simple level, it was sports. Okay, what kind of sports are we serving? Is it football? Is it cricket? Is it rugby? And then surfaces, all the different types of services that they provided, all the different services that they provided, all the different systems that they provided. So there were certain ways that they categorized their products, but that structure wasn't in place. So we wanted to make sure we aligned that structure in terms of how actual customers view their products. So just ensuring that you certainly align the customer experience, as well as looking at search volume, etc. The classic stuff. You kind of want to take it back a few steps. And what this resulted in was 2 million euros in global growth, and we tested the new structure in SEOtesting.com again as well, just to verify what we were doing. So the new structure was built around the commercial pages, and we launched a test where we tested the old URLs compared to the new URLs in terms of the structure, and we saw about 190% improvement in terms of clicks per day. Over the course of the year, we were able to attract over 1,000 qualified CRM leads, and the conversion rate also improved. So it's just another example of when you align everything from a technical perspective with business, commercial, content, and ensuring, of course, other channels are involved in the process, or other marketing specialists. It could be the design team, the UX team working on the project. You can certainly achieve significant growth for any business.
Awesome. And yeah, going back a little bit for us Americans over here, when he was talking about football pitches, soccer fields is what he was
Yes,
referring to there.
that's
Um,
it.
but no, I think like you mentioned, I love migrations too, right? When we get to work on them here at Lumar with an account, I think it's really really fun, right? I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into it, but in certain cases, it's a chance, like you said, kind of start fresh almost to get everything right that maybe you weren't pleased with before. So we're working with one account currently, and I think the new site, the migration is due to be completed in the summer. So really excited to kind of see how it goes. I know we've been chatting around basically everything we possibly can, and everything that you had mentioned too. So yeah, I love them too, and obviously a huge important piece to optimizing everything on your site as well.
Yeah, definitely. I've certainly worked with brands where they just struggle to get results, and you just know the website's a problem. It's like you're just praying and hoping to make that decision to
Hmm.
migrate, just waiting for that day. And then when they sign off the budget, yeah, you can start getting into work. Cool. And this leads us on to, I guess, the final segment, which is kind of just a recap of what we've covered. So, in terms of all those workflows, right? The whole point is trying to align what we do with the rest of the business and the rest of the marketing team or teams that we are working with. And for sure, we can leverage the search data. We're closest to data, I think, more so than any other team potentially, because we look at it every day in terms of understanding trends, what's happening, what customers interested in, etc., and all the various reporting that we have. So we can certainly understand those trends and convey them to the business and make sure that they align with whatever the business aims are. So that can certainly lead to an increase in organic leads and improve your demand capture. Going back to the prices versus courses page example, right? If they didn't have the right structure to capture that demand, we would never have got, these kind of results if they just stuck to the old way in terms of what they used to do. And then in terms of site architecture, we certainly know how that can improve performance. And by improving your site architecture, you can actually help a business achieve significant growth. So for that example that I shared there, overall, they shared with us that they're actually 45% up this year compared to last year. And a lot of that is down to the new site structure, of course, moving up over to a better platform through to the migration as well. And in terms of product insights shaping content, I always view SEO as an opportunity to get closer to the business, right? And it's certainly trying to get as much insight as possible. I think as SEOs, we need to get out of our search volume mindset and click mindset and impression mindset because sometimes that really doesn't matter. So we need to understand at a product level what's important, at a business level what's really important, and then align whatever we do according to that. Not the other way around. We can't convince businesses to go after something just because there's a huge demand for it. But is it the right kind of demand? Is it the right kind of customers? So it comes back to that. And through doing that, you can actually improve acceptance rates in terms of B2B performance, in terms of how many MQLs are being accepted, and also at a e-commerce level, you can improve your conversion rate. Then finally, the final point is migrations. I love migrations. We led 6 major migrations last year, and we've got a few that we're going to go through this year. And I think it's a really wonderful opportunity for us to build everything from the ground up. And I believe SEO-led migrations have a huge impact on the business. Um, so much more than anything else, I believe. And it really needs to be technical SEOs leading that project. And we need to get into the right rooms to have those commercial conversations. So yeah, we have a huge influence, I think, in terms of business performance. And yeah, we're an underrated unit, I think, in marketing. And we need to ensure that we're aligned because we're integral to everything else.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kevin. That was great. Super informative. I learned a lot just listening to this. So I'm sure everyone else did as well. But do you have any last thoughts or any kind of closing words before we kind of go into the last poll and kind of close up the webinar?
Yeah, just thank you for this opportunity. It's been a while since I've done this, so no, I've appreciated sharing how we think, and yeah, the Beyond SEO theme is very very much aligned with how we work. So yeah, it's been brilliant. I hope some people found it valuable as well.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. And yeah, thank you for doing this as well. Like I said, I enjoyed it, and I learned a lot. Just going through with you. So I'm sure everyone else
Cool.
did as well. But cool. So going into the final poll question, like I mentioned, through a few points in Kevin's presentation, that ways Lumar can kind of help. The last poll question is, would you like a demo of the Lumar platform? We have different platforms for tech SEO, GEO, site speed, web accessibility, and custom analytics. So if you'd like a demo, let us know. We'd love to set that up, and I'd love to work with you as well. I love meeting new people and getting to see new sites, and can kind of go through all it with them. So if you'd like a demo, let us know, and we can certainly get that set up. Cool. Okay, so while the poll is being finalized, I know we're running a little late on time here, so we have time for a few questions. Kevin, one that came in that I think is interesting was should I significantly increase my paid search budget to improve AI driven traffic?
So when you say budget, does that mean technical activity or are we talking about PR activity? I guess the question would be, where are you spending that money? And when we talk about traffic, we know that AI traffic is very hard to measure. So I wouldn't have that as the primary objective if you are going to invest in, let's say, the goal of increasing AI traffic. I think it comes back again to alignment. I know this is a common theme. It's a common word I'm going to say. You need to align whatever you do according to the business. Is that going to make you more money over time? Is that going to make your brand more trusted? Kind of going through all those different layers that I went through in the presentation. Is it going to improve your distribution? Is it going to improve your content, your brand as a whole, your authority? And then, of course, the search strategy, which is the AI bit, then it kind of lines up with that. And you can't start at the AI strategy level. You kind of have to go through the levels.
Cool. And then they clarified with paid search budget, meaning Google search ads.
Oh, Google Search Ads. Yeah, I think it's an underrated thing. I think PPC is like that hidden SEO superpower, not superpower, like superhero, would I say? Brands who invest heavily in Google Ads, they're able to get more Google reviews or more third-party reviews, Trustpilot, etc., because they're getting more customers through the door. Whatever helps you get more customers through the door, I think is a worthwhile investment from an organic perspective. So if that is paid ads, then okay, great. I think it's definitely worthwhile investing in. And then of course you can improve the efficiency of that over time. But yeah, we certainly find it's easier to get SEO results for brands that invest in PPC than those that don't, if that helps answer the question.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kevin. And again, I know we are running short on time, so let's just go on to the next slide. Cool. So if you wanted to dive deeper on anything here, we have a link to Kevin's podcast, Beyond SEO. So I'll let you say a quick little thing about that as well,
Yeah. Yeah.
before I move on to the next thing.
Cool. Yeah. So Beyond SEO it's a podcast that isn't just about SEO. We try and speak about topics that go beyond that. We've had a couple of brands join the pod, and we've got a surprise, very special guest for the last episode of the first season. So yeah, definitely subscribe, and yeah, can't wait if you're interested to hear that one.
Yeah, everyone go follow the link. You can view all of his episodes that are already released, and then give it a listen so you can see who the surprise guest is. We also have a free guide, an ebook that was made by Lumar. So SEO and GEO skills you need to know in 2026. So there's a link to that, and we also shared a link in the chat. And then lastly, our next webinar, which will be on April 22nd, GEO, AEO, and the future of search. So look out for that. And then there's also a link to all of our past webinars, and this one will be uploaded there once in a few days as well. Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you all very much for joining. Thank you, Kevin, for going through your presentation. Yeah. Excited to hear
Oh,
from all of
thank
you.
you. Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Cheers.